Welcome to the fourth video inside of Lesson 4 for my Unity Asteroids project. And I think I misspoke on last one. I think I called that 4.4 as well. But this is the real 4.4. And this one's going to be pretty quick, and it's actually largely optional. This is for getting pop-up damage numbers to appear whenever you shoot an asteroid, which really helps add to an arcade-esque feel. So you can actually see damage numbers appearing above each time you hit an asteroid, which will be actually really beneficial if we start to add additional weapons for the players to use. So to use this, I've actually included some pre-existing code inside of this pop-up damage Unity package. So we're going to want to import that, and then once it's imported, it's relatively easy to use. So import package, custom package, and then pop-up damage, and then hit open. There's not a whole lot going on in here. It's a relatively lightweight thing. So I've got some prefabs here called game assets and pop-up damage, and then some scripts. So hit import. And it should be ready to go. So the first thing that needs to happen is that this game assets needs to exist inside of your hierarchy. So we're going to drag and drop that in like that. It is an invisible object, so you really won't even notice it. And I gave it a little diamond icon so it's easy to stand out and to find. You don't really need to do anything to it. I would not recommend renaming it because the damage pop-up code, I think, searches by name for that specific object. Yeah, so we can see right here. So don't rename it. It's gameObject.find game assets. So it's actually looking for that specific thing through a name. So renaming it will actually break this. And so this is just kind of some different ways for it to handle instantiating these pop-ups in a very clean manner. So that's really, and you're welcome to dive into the code for the damage pop-up. It is a little out there because it uses some kind of styles that aren't really friendly to kind of like first-year programmers. Specifically kind of like a static method that serves as like an instantiation statement that returns a reference to the object that it just created is a really, really weird way to code. But it's actually the most efficient way to handle this. So, but yeah, it's an interesting read, and I don't have a whole lot of comments inside of it, unfortunately. So that's the code for it. And to actually use it, we have this damage pop-up text. And so just quickly, this has a few settings you may care about. This controls the font and the size, so you can play with some of the sizes, some of the font, and there's a default text so you can actually kind of see a sample. But you may actually be interested in changing some of these variables, such as the disappear time, the move x random time. That's like what kind of jitter it has. The move y speed, which is not relevant for us because this is only played in the x and the y. And the z speed is how fast it floats up. The x random is the jitter, so how much like each thing does it go off to the side. If you want all of your damage numbers perfectly vertical, set this to 0. But if you're okay with them kind of popping to the left and the right a little bit, leave that as 1. So those are settings you might care about. Well, I hope that's not going to be a problem down the road. All right, so I do notice that this popped this up on my other monitor, which is probably why I did not see it. And this is the importing for the this text formatter. So we do want to click import on that. And that should fix that error. I was wondering why that had the error there. Okay, so now that that's been imported, that error has gone away, and we should be fine. Yeah. So let's actually kind of make it spawn some damage numbers. And so I want to handle that inside of the damage code of my weapon. So inside of laser basic, we have this method here called get damage. And this would be the perfect opportunity for us to pop open the damage number, because the asteroid who just got hit calls this method to receive how much damage. And this is the only part of the code that's going to know if it was a critical hit. It knows the exact damage number. It knows where the laser was when it hit. So there's actually a lot that we can do here. So we're going to actually do our stuff here. So let's first start with cleaning up this code a little bit. Let's determine if something was a critical hit. And we'll even do something like int crit chance. Make it a little bit easier to handle this with. So let's go up to the top here. And under all these variables, let's add another one called public int crit chance. If you wanted to, you could, well, I'll keep it an int for now. We'll keep whole percentages. So we can do like 5% crit chance is what that represents. And so we're going to do this with integers. It is worth knowing that you could probably do this with decimal numbers, but I think the integers is a little bit easier to read. So that's why we're going to do this. So we generate our random number, and then we'll do if random is greater than or equal to 100 minus crit chance. So if crit chance is 5, then that means if the random number is greater than 95. So that's basically what we have there. Then we'll set is critical to true, else is critical is false. And so damage, we'll call this actual damage, will be equal to our damage, but if it was a critical, then we'll do actual damage is set equal to an int cast of actual damage times 2. Oops, parenthesis problem. Now we can clean this up and just return the damage. So we've got all this going on, and now at this point we are ready to, and we should be returning actual damage. We're ready to generate the pop-up text. So I guess let's also make a color. And I probably should have started to figure this out ahead of time. But we can go quickly and check to see what color the light is on my laser. So if we go look into the player laser, we can see that we have this light here. So we can pop this open, we can read the RGB values of this, and we can see that it's 255 red, 150 green, and 0 blue. So that's a pretty easy thing to recreate. So that text color is that orange-ish color that the laser is. So that if you have different weapons, they can have different color damage numbers popping up. All right. So at that point, then let's also do a vector 3, and we'll call this text spawn location. And what that's going to be is a new vector 3. And I want to make some, I need it to spawn a little bit above my current, the head of my current object. So we will do transform dot position dot x, transform dot position dot y, And we'll add a tiny bit to the Z, and we'll see how that looks. So we've got my text color, my text spawn color. And this is what I was basically referring to, it being a very weird way of style coding. And so we're actually able just to call the method called damage popup, which is a static method, .create. And then we can tell it where to make it. So the first, if we read the parameters, we've got the position to make it, the damage amount to display, the color, and then whether or not it was a critical. And so the critical will make the text bigger, and I think it also makes it red. So we'll do text spawn location, comma actual damage, comma text color, comma is critical. And so that's going to feed in all of the different calculations that we did here to actually start popping up this damage number. And we don't need it's going to delete itself, so it should look pretty good. Let's hit save and let's see if this is actually spawning us at the location we want. We might have to think about this offset that we used for the text spawn location, and also maybe consider like bringing it up off of that initial plane. Now we're not an orthogonal view, so that shouldn't be as big of a deal, but this pulls it up, and the reason we need to pull it up like that, actually, you know, we'll drop this. We want this to be higher than other things, so that it doesn't appear stuck. Like, we don't want the asteroids to appear over it. That would look really terrible. So we're moving it up on the Y plane by 1, so it's going to appear on top of things. I took off the Z. I want to see where it spawns first before I play with that. So we hit save, and now we should actually have text pop-ups. And this is actually the only command you need to spawn this text, which is part of the initial design, was to make it very easy to use. And so knowing that this is how you create the text, if you do want to go read the script for how it actually works, you might find that mildly amusing. All right, so we're back in. Let's see if our damage numbers worked or if we crash. Wow, that is a little big. So our text damage pop-ups are coming out way too big. So we might need to take a look at some of our settings in this prefab, the pop-up damage text prefab. And so if I was to drop one in the world, I can get a good sample of how big this is going to appear. And so that's a little much. So we really need to drop this text size. And I see right here this font size is actually what's being problematic. It's, for some reason, it should be 4. And if we do font assets, I wonder if I can revert that. So that is the more appropriate size. So that should fix it. We can now delete it outside the world. And let's see if that fixed it. Still big. Okay, let's edit the prefab. Open up text pop-up. So it should be using a size of 4. We've got plenty of space here for all that. So there's our text. It's just instantiating way too big. Let's hit apply all and see if that actually causes it to behave. So it's coming in at smaller now, so let's see. That's a lot better. And so we've got our damage numbers appearing. So that may also cause you to rethink your the amount of damage everything's choosing to do, and my incredibly depressingly low critical strike chance. I think I only had one that entire time. But so that's our pop-up damage numbers. That last thing I had to do, I dragged in the pop-up damage text into the game world. I changed the font size down to 4, and I had to click apply to prefab. And so now you have pop-up damage text. And any weapon you add, you could do the same thing. You can play with the critical hit chance to make this a little bit more interesting than 10 most of the time. And so that wraps up this, and this wraps up our asteroids being able to be attacked. So hope that's enjoyable. I hope you have fun with the damage text numbers. And lesson 5 is going to start covering the actual gameplay elements of like asteroids spawning in waves, the player dying, tracking score, and tracking number of lives. So thank you for watching.